We're talking about microprocessor based systems. There we talked about the very abstract way of putting microprocessor based systems. After that, we had a discussion of elements: program counter, instruction register, accumulator. So we mentioned that program counter, it always holds the address of next instruction. Instruction register, it holds the address of present or current instruction, and whatever present instruction, current instruction is going to point, that it is going to be, the data is going to be pushed up into the accumulator. So this was the architectural advantages of what we were talking regarding the microprocessor, etc. So we do have a way of putting the evaluation of the computers, which we have discussed earlier, but we'll have a fast recap of the evaluation of the computers. So first generation, it was vacuum tubes. Second generation was transistors. Third generation was integrated chips. And from 1917 onwards, 71 onwards, it was microprocessors. So when we were talking about the third generation computers, we have small scale integration, medium scale integration, large scale integration, and very large scale integration. So in this way, we are going to have the different integrated items, etc. So when it is less than 10, we call it as small scale. When it is 10 to 100, we called it as medium scale integration. And large scale integration, the number of transistors will be up to 1000. Very large scale integration, the number of transistors was up to 10,000, etc. So this is all regarding the way how the development happened. So this is what the first generation PIC, that is up to 1950s, etc. So at that time, the computer systems were like mainframes where they occupy the entire room. So this is setup of one single computer here, and this is made up of the vacuum tubes. So this was the PIC developed by the IBM people. So vacuum tubes are replaced with the transistors, and transistors now still they had a PIC of the old generation computers. So University of Manchester, they are maintaining the same for demo. So this was the PIC which was at the level made on the transistors. Next comes the Digital Equipment Corporation's PD8, and at this point of time we have the rack size server setup or rack side computers. So even in the C block also you can see the servers in the rack model. And yeah, we are talking about the 1971 to onwards, the microprocessors evaluation right from 4004. So this is all regarding the different evaluations. When we are talking about the evaluation, the most important thing was if the number of transistors are growing, the speed of a computer will grow. So this was a thumb rule. When the number of transistors are growing, the speed of the computer will also grow. So we have this point of time. Next one was drastically right from 4004 onwards to the Pentium. So we have enough way of increasing the clock speed, etc. Then we have the million instructions per second, MIPS. So this how many number of instructions it is going to happen for 1 second. So similarly, right from 800 8080 to 8008 and to the Pentium processors, always the number of instructions are going to be increased, and the size of compaction of a chip was so reduced, and you can see here the size was very high when it is 800, and when it came to the Pentium model, so the size was so compact. So these are the 4 criteria what we need to say when the Intel microprocessor was looking. So number of transistors will be increased, clock speed will be increased, million instructions per second will be increased, size was compact. So these will be the nature of working with the microprocessors. So the people who are developing the microprocessors will be the Intel people, IBM, Motorola. So Sun Microsystems developed by the Java, etc., the Texas. So these are some of the market leaders which you have listened, even the AMD processors. So all these are going to be the commercial versions who have developed the microprocessors. So this is all a way who are going to develop the microprocessors. Next one, the front view is different, but the inside architectural view was different. So the architectural view was that we do have a bus which it is going to link up the address bus, data bus, and control bus. That is point number 1. Next one, we have the elements called as ports. So from the port, we are going to connect to the keyboard. We will connect to the VGA monitor. We will connect to the secondary storage devices, that is disk, hard disk, and other peripheral devices like the scanners or printers, etc. So all those, they are going to be connected to the ports. From the ports, they move to the bus, and thereby they reaches to the microprocessor. When we are going to call it as a microprocessor, our interpretation was it is going to be a chip. On a chip, we have a central processing unit, we do have control unit, and we do have the arithmetic logic unit. The second thing, we are going to have the main memory. So at this point of time, when we are going to call it as main memory, we say it is random access memory. Next one was we need to have timing and synchronization. So we need to have some clock pulse, and this it is going to work in megahertz per second. So for that, we are going to have the timing and control. Every instruction to the microprocessor will come via interrupts. So this was a thumb rule. Every instruction to the microprocessor will come as a interrupt. So you are watching some movies, obviously there is a message which comes from a WhatsApp to you. So you are disturbed by that message. It's an interrupt. So when you are watching a YouTube video or a movie, so obviously some other content is disturbing you and you are switching to that. So you are halting the present process and you are moving to the next. You answer to that message and you come back to your YouTube. So the same way the CPU also thinks. So CPU will work some instruction, a new instruction will come, it attends that new instruction, after that it is cleared, it goes back to its previous one. So what is this process entirely? We call it as a interrupt and control. This is the interrupt example. So after that, when we look into the personal computers, etc. So this is a very abstract way of putting the things with personal computers. So it will be with a system bus. We call it as data bus, address bus, and control bus. And thereby we have the keyboard port. Then we have the timing and synchronization, which it is going to be done in digital pulses. Then we are going to have the processor, the central processor unit, and a sub-processor. So as a principal and vice principal in the same model, processor will be available. Similarly, a co-processor also is available. So for 8086, there is a co-processor. So the co-processor, we are going to call it as 8087. So when we work on advanced graphics applications, etc., then at that time, the co-processor is going to come into picture. So you even, let's say, if you have a graphic port, then only your laptop can play the games, etc., the 3D games, etc. So the general application will not be able to satisfy. External chip need to be uh, given to that. So that is the reason why a coprocessor is going to be needed. Later on, we do have the system memory where we have the read-only memory, etc. And similarly, the primary memory where we have static RAM and dynamic RAM, which is mentioned. And then we do have the interrupt controller. So I just mentioned CPU was doing its normal execution. Meanwhile, a new job comes. So when a new job is hitting the CPU's door, obviously we call that setup as a interrupt. So this is all regarding the personal computer things. Fine. Now we will start up a new topic. So this new topic was Intel 8086 microprocessor pin diagram. So now in this Intel 8086, the first key takeaway, it was invented in 1978. Then the word length, it is going to be of 16-bit, and the number of pins is going to be 40 pin. So these are the key takeaway at this point of time. So at this area we see 20 pin, and this area we do 20 pin. So total we will have 40 pin. So this is the dual inline package. So this chip, what we are going to see, it is going to have 40 pins. So every pin will have a specific nature, a specific usage. So we say it is, we look with the 8086 architecture. Now coming to this, we have three versions which works with 5 megahertz, 8 megahertz, and 10 megahertz speeds, and the number of transistors were 29,000. The number of transistors to it will be 29,000 transistors at this point of time. So uh, it is the fourth generation makeup, right? So because the number of transistors are more, the clock speed is high, instructions execution is also high. So the takeaways from this point: one, it is going to have data bus of 16 line. Two, it is going to have address bus of 20 bits. Then it is going to access a memory of 2 power 20. So it accesses up to 1 megabyte. So this was the thing. So all this happened in 1978. Now you are in 2021 at this. Even the photo what you click on your from your mobile, it is more than 1 MB. So that much advancements happened for the past 50 years. So at that time, having a processor, having a CPU with 2 power 20 is an extreme end, and means people at that time who have landline phone in their home, so that is a big prestige symbol. So now everything went off. So in this way we have the 8086 configuration with the 3 primitives: one data bus 16-bit, address bus 20-bit, memory 1 megabyte, pins 40. So these are the 4 takeaways what we have to understand at this point of time. Now this slide, it is showing you the holistic architecture of the 8086 here. So total number of pins you can see from starting from 1 to 20, then 21 to 40. So total we have 40 pins. Every pin is having a specific purpose. Every pin is going to have a specific purpose. So coming to this very first way of putting the things to you. So this was the chip. It is having 20 pins towards its left side, 20 pins towards its right side. So now we are moving to this diagram. So 20 pins to the left side, 20 pins to the right side. So this is first takeaway. Now let us look into in detail what every pin is going to do. So now coming to the first way of putting the things at this point of time. Let us recap a word called as multiplexer. Let us recap a word called as multiplexer. So multiplexer, what it is going to do was, it says it is going to have 2 power n outputs, and it is going to give one output, right? 2 power n inputs and one output. So examples are 2 by 1, 4 by 1. So I am writing 4 by 1 multiplexer. So multiplexer, you call it as MUX. So there will be 2 select lines, S0 and S1. Then we have 4 inputs, and we are going to have only one output. So we call it as 2 square into 1. So 2 square into 1. So this is the definition of a multiplexer and a generic diagram for multiplexer. Now, how are we relating this multiplexer to the chip? So you can see here the primary characteristics of 8086 are, it is going to have 20-bit address, 16-bit data bus. It is going to have 20-bit address bus, 16-bit data bus. Now, at this point of time, the scientists who made the chip, they felt that there are 2, 3 like that up to 16, followed by 17, 18, 19, 20, and 1, 2, 3 up to 16. So they felt that these 16 bits are common to address and to data. So why not we put them together? Why not we put them together. So how they can see either an address will transfer or a data will transfer, but not the both. So in the bus, either address will go or data will go. So only one way is taking up. Then why should we waste few more 15 pins more? Why can't we merge these together? So at that time they have used the concept of a multiplexer. So it is telling AD0, AD1, AD2. So if I'm going to say AD4, what is AD4 here means? I'm going to have a multiplexer. That too I'm going to have multiplexer of 2 power 1 into 1. That means I am going to have two inputs, one A, another D. Then I am going to have only one output. I am going to call it as AD. That means A stands for address and D stands for data. A stands for address and D stands for data. So now at this point of time, the juncture was, if I'm going to say AD4, then what I can imply was, I'm going to have one address line, I'm going to have one data line. So A and D, I'm going to multiplex, and thereby I'm going to have a one output, that is either A or either D. So in this way, the first way of putting you the things, is going to happen. So AD0 to AD15. That means we are going to have 16-bit, which is going to be common for address line, 16-bit, which is going to common for data line. All those things are going to be put together. So I just mentioned you at this point of time, I am going to have 16 bits at this 0 to 16. So I am starting with 0. Therefore, 1 point will be reduced, that it will going to be 15, right? 16 bits are there, and 16 bits means I am counting from 1 to 16. But if I am going to start with 0, it is going to end with 15. So that is the reason why we are going to have AD0 to AD15, and both of them were multiplexed. So now you can see the architectural diagram. So in the address bit, we have 20 bit, but first 16 are going to be multiplexed with the data bit. So you have AD 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So we have this with A, D, and then we have A or D. The inputs are either A, the inputs are either D, and it is going to be a multiplexer. Either address will come nor data will come. Either address will come nor data will come. Okay, where are my 4 pins? What are the other pins? Address 16, address 17, address 18, address 19. So again, these addresses, they are going to be appropriately done with select lines. So first what we discussed was AD0 to AD15. These are going to be multiplexed. So addresses is of 20 bit, data is of 16 bit. Now what we are going to do, so 16 and 16 are common. So first 16 we made. Then who is pending? Pending was A16, A17, A18, A19. So for these items, we are having select lines. So we are going to use a multiplexer, and this multiplexer, it is going to have 2 power n into 1. So I'm going to say 4 by 1. So I can say AB, A bar B, AB bar, A bar B bar. Then I can say it will be any of the one, right? This is the definition of a multiplexer. So for to generate 4 input lines, I am going to say there should be 2 select lines. Similarly, the chip it is going to use, the chip it is going to make a multiplexing of 4 items at this point of time. At this point of time, it is going to make a 4 items. So it is having yes select lines. It is going to have the select lines which are given at this point of time, that is S3, S4, S5 and S6. So up to now we have given up the address and we are present of the data. Next one. Now we were mentioning 1001, 1101, 1100, 0110. Assume if it is like this. So we call it as 8-bit here, 8-bit and total 16-bit. Now these elements we call it as low order bits. The next 8 items we are going to call it as high order bits. The first 8 we are going to call it as towards the left side, we call it as low order bits. Towards the right side, we call it as high order bits. Next one. Another form was we call it as least significant bits. These we are going to call it as most significant bits. So first half we are going to call it as low order bits. The upper half we are going to call it as high order bits. Now what we are going to say was this is AD0, AD1, AD2, AD3. These are AD4, AD5, AD6, AD7. This element is AD8, AD9 up to we will be getting it as AD15. So AD8 to AD15 we are going to call them as high order bits or most significant bits. AD0 to AD7 we are going to call them as low order bits or least significant bits. So this was the takeaway from this slide. So we have 16 bits at a time. In this 16 bits, the least significant bits are 8, which are immencing from AD0 to AD7, and the other one they are going to be taken up from AD8 to AD15. So up to now we have made this discussions in the pin diagram. Next, let us look at the other items. So S6, S5, S4, S3, these items we are going to call it as select lines, and these select lines are again multiplexed. These select lines, they are going to be again multiplexed and they are going to give the status, and they are going to give the status. So what was the status? It says active or not active, whether the chip is going to work or whether the chip is not going to work. So who is going to decide? The select lines are going to decide and they are going to give up the status. So I just showed you here the select lines. So I was mentioning A, B, A bar, B, A, B bar, A bar, B bar. So we get 4 inputs for a multiplexer. So they are based on S0 and S1. Then we get the output. So how we are getting these 4 inputs? We are going to get it with the select lines. So at this point of time, we had 16 common bits for address, 16 common bits for data. So those are done. Who is pending? 16, 17, 18, 19 is pending. So for 16, 17, 18 and 19, they are pointing out with the select status, and there they are going to use up the multiplexer. they are going to use up the multiplexer. Next one. The other important thing was we need a pushing point. We need a pushing point, a pushing directive to show either data should come or either address should come. The address we were mentioning AD0 to AD15. So who should come? Whether it should be address or whether it should be data. We have to decide one item. So that decision is going to be taken up with the bus high enable. So bus high enable is a pin which it is going to decide whether to make a transfer of an address or whether to make a transfer of a data. So how can I make a address transfer? How can I make a data transfer? Means it is going to be taken up with the signal line of the select line, which it is going to taken up at S7, and this S7 it is going to be pointed out at line number, pin number 34. It is going to be given at pin number 34. We are able to see that. So next one. What are the operations we can do on a microprocessor? One, we can make a read operation. Two, we can make a write operation. So other than that, nothing we can do on the laptop, right? You are going to make a read operation, nor you are going to make a write operation. So we need a supporting pin to do up this read. We need a supporting pin to do up this write. So which is going to decide? Pin number 32 is going to decide a signal whether we can go for reading, whether we can go for writing. So now what the microprocessor has to do? The microprocessor has to read, the microprocessor has to write. So one person has to decide and tell who is that person. The person number is pin number 32. What he is going to do? He will say, okay, now I am going to set it as low. Read is equals to low. Then read. Read is equals to 1. Then write. So in this way, a binary state is going to give you whether to make a read operation, whether to make a write operation. The next thing is going to be taken up whether the microprocessor is ready to take up a data transfer or not. The microprocessor is going to be ready to take up a data or not. So who is going to decide? It is going to be taken up with a ready state. So you made up your mind to join the class. Making up your mind, you are ready at that point. Similarly, microprocessor is ready to take up data. So how I am going to judge that item? The judging of an item is going to be taken up at pin number 22. It is going to be taken up at pin number 22, and pin number 22 is going to tell, yeah, the microprocessor is ready and it can acknowledge for transferring of data from either input devices or it is ready to transfer or get the data from the output devices. Okay, next one. I want to restart my computer. I want to restart my mobile. So if such is the case, then who is going to decide it? It is going to be decided with a pin in 8086 called as pin number 21. So it is like a roll number 21, and this roll number 21 is going to say, okay, you start the computer, you restart the computer. So that means whatever previous data in the microprocessor is there, all the temporary storage of data is going to be lost. Freshly, a new copy is going to be launched. So this is what we are going to say. So the previous state, whatever temporary storage in the cache memory, in the primary memory, whatever data is going to be there, that element is going to be lost, and a fresh item is going to be taken up. Next one. Every instruction in a microprocessor will have 4 cycles. Every instruction in a microprocessor will have 4 cycles. So 1 we call it as initialization, 2 we call it as decoding, 3 we call it as execution, 4 it is completion. First one initialization, second one we call it as decoding, third one we call it as execution, and fourth one we call it as submission, or we are going to call it as generation of the output. So every instruction will have 4 cycles, but how much speed it needs, it depends upon instruction to instruction. It varies from instruction to instruction capacity. So up to now we talked about only a reset pin. It is going to restart the computer. Next one. We were now talking about pin number 18 at this point of time. So pin number 18, what it is going to do means it is going to make interrupt request. So you are working or you are watching your YouTube video, all of a sudden WhatsApp message comes, it pings, it gives a beep sound. So you are disturbed at that point of time. So that disturbing in your mind which raised, we are going to call it as an interrupt request. So technically inside the computer, the language what it is going to talk means we call it as interrupt request. And when INTR is equals to high, that means interrupt is going to be raised. Interrupt is going to be signaled. So when an interrupt has been raised, that means an interrupt has been generated, and that it is going to be called as high state. INTR is equals to 1. Who is showing this? It is shown with pin number 18. It is going to be shown with pin number 18, and then it is working with a level triggered flip-flop. So I will write a pulse here. So in this pulse, this is low, high, then from this item to this item, we call it as positive edge, and this entire point, we call it as negative edge, positive edge, negative edge triggered flip-flop. And if I'm going to take an entire oscillation, we call it as a level triggered. So positive spike, negative spike, 0, 1. There are 4 stages. First stage, 0 state. Next state, 1 state. 0 to 1 or 1 to 0. 0 to 1, we call it as positive edge triggered. 1 to 0, we call it as negative edge triggered. And if we are going to pull up the entire thing, then we are going to call it as level triggered. So pin number 18 is going to show up a level triggered content. Next one was non-maskable interrupt. Next item was non-maskable interrupt. So non-maskable interrupt, it is going to call it as a signal, and it is going to show up a edge triggered interrupt. So we talked about interrupt request, and then we are talking about pin number 17, non-maskable interrupt. Okay, now the condition is, what is the difference between INTR and what is the difference between NMI? Both I we are going to call it as interrupt, then what is the difference? Yeah, the difference was non-maskable interrupt is going to have high priority. So whereas interrupt request is going to have a low priority. So this is the only key takeaway we should get from this slide. NMI stands for non-maskable interrupt. What is interrupt? I am watching YouTube. All suddenly a WhatsApp message is pinging. So getting a WhatsApp message notification while watching my YouTube video is called as a interrupt, technically inside a computer. Now, interrupts are of two types. One, we call it as non-maskable interrupt. Two, we call it as interrupt request. In non-maskable interrupt, it is going to have a higher priority when compared to the interrupt request. So this was the takeaway from this slide. Next one was, we have 8086 as main processor. This we call it as a principal. And 8087 we call it as coprocessor. We call it as vice principal. So pin number 23, it is going to decide if 8086 is busy, and if there is a task, then it will migrate the task to the coprocessor if it is going to be idle. So in general, a coprocessor will does all the arithmetic and logic arithmetic instructions. All type of arithmetic instructions, they are going to be processed in the coprocessor. Fine. So what is test pin? In general, a real-time case was, in the architectural diagram, we have a main processor called as 8086 and we have a coprocessor 8087. Both are friends. And 8086 literally in a real-time example, we call it as principal. 8087, we call it as a vice principal. If 8086 was busy in instructing, and if there is a new prioritized job occurs, and if 8087 was idle at that time, that instruction will be assigned to 8087. So in this way, there is a cooperation between the coprocessor and main processor. So the test pin is going to be opted on the busy pin. So busy pin will tell whether the CPU was idle or busy. If it is idle, job will be assigned. If it is not idle, if it is busy, then job will not be assigned. So this is how we have to distinguish between test pin and busy pin. This is how we are going to decide between test pin and busy pin. So test complement was given up. So it is going to decide to choose 8086 or to choose coprocessor. In general, coprocessor will do arithmetic instructions: addition, multiplication, subtraction, division. So such type of instructions are going to be generated by the coprocessor. After that, we are going to have one more pin called as 19. After that, we are going to have one more pin called as 19, and this pin we are going to call here as a clock pin. So clock pin, it is used for synchronization. It is going to use for timing and synchronous operations of the microprocessor. It is going to render timing and synchronous operations of the microprocessor. So it is going to generate a series of clock pulses. It is going to generate series of clock pulses. So how is it generating? The series are going to be generated 5, 8 megahertz, 10 megahertz. So this was the speed of the clock the microprocessor is going to have. Next one was, microprocessor needs plus 5 volts power. Microprocessor needs plus 5 volts power. So to our house, for any plus box in the box at the doors, wherever you have, 240 to 230 volts will come from the line. But if you are going to give directly that power, obviously the minute you give to your mobile phone or the laptop, it will burn at that second itself. So the maximum capacity consumption will be 12, 15 or 20. It will be less than 20 or less than 30 volts. Nowadays, power chargers have came and the adapters have improved, but still they are at 20 watts only. So they are at 5 volts charging power. So microprocessor needs VCC and VSS. So VCC is going to be a power supply pin what we are going to give up, and VSS, it is going to represent a ground value. So as for a home, we get from the line, we get our power, and that is number of volts we get, and for every house we have a earth wire. Similarly, when we take up a chip, obviously every chip is going to have a grounded pin. So as this point of time, 8086 chip, it is going to have either pin number 40 or pin number 20. So these are connected to the power supply pins. Fine. So just we will have a recap before we conclude our class. So we were talking about the pin diagram of 8086. So at this time we mentioned that AD0 to AD15 were multiplexed. Address buses are 16, data buses are 20, and the last 4 items of the address bus, that is 16, 17, 18, 19, they are multiplexed with the select lines. Next one, we have a special pin called as BHE, called as bus high enable. It will decide whether to hold address or whether to hold data. Next thing, the microprocessor has a capacity to do memory read, memory write, IO read, IO write. So in 4 of these things, either it is a read operation or it is going to be a write operation, which is decided by the read op. Next one, we need to see that the microprocessor is active and it can get data from the slower devices like memory or input output devices, that it is going to be initiated with a pin called as ready. Next one, it is going to have a synchronization and timing, it is going to have the reset pin, which it is going to restart the microprocessor. So temporary storage content which is in the cache memory, which is in the primary memory, they are going to be deleted. And next, every signal is going to be processed as an interrupt, and interrupt is going to be raised with a request called as INTR. Then we are going to have a non-maskable interrupt, which we call it as a high priority interrupt. So let us compare NMI and INTR, both came at a time. Then NMI is going to have the highest priority. Then we are going to have a coprocessor. 8086 is the main processor, 8087 is a coprocessor. So all type of arithmetic instructions, addition, multiplication, subtraction, division, those operations are going to be taken up with the coprocessor. If the main processor is busy, and then the instructions are migrated to the coprocessor. If the main processor is idle, the instructions are given to the coprocessor. To the main processor. Next one, in order to generate a clock pulses, we are going to have synchronization and timing, which it is assigned to pin number 19. And lastly, we do have this VCC and VSS. They are going to act for the power supply pins and a ground pin. So this is all for today's class.